those in favour? Any matters arising, please? On any pages? Councillor Kidd?
Yeah, thank you. Just one, like after the performance, 4/7, sorry,
10.
Worship.
7.
4/7.
Thank you.
Just after the agenda item number 17 about the performance report, it was once again, detailed financial information was once again asked for by staff regards to the AC bars. I was just wondering if the working party had received that.
Answer's
It's
no.
a month later again, that's all.
So the report that was asked for was... Got it. But the AC Bar's working part is going very well. Detailed financial information about the project have been requested from staff. So staff.
Yep, I'll find out where it's at. Did you know if Andrew provided that information?
This was a month ago.
Somebody else to get it.
I'll just respectfully point out that it was requested at the first site visit to the AC bars, which was some 2 months ago.
Okay. However, okay, well, Mr. Williams has assured us now, I guess, with his head nodding that that will be supplied expediently. Forthwith. So is there anything final, any other matters arising from the minutes? There being none, I will move now to agenda number 5, which is receipt of unconfirmed minutes of Mangakino Pouakani Representative Group meeting of the 25th of October. We'll do that one first, which takes us through to 5/6. So are there any questions or discussions there from those minutes, as they're not our job to confirm or make amendments? So I will ask for a mover and a seconder, please, to receive. Councillor Truman and secondly Councillor Hickling. All those in favour? Aye. And of course the other ones are the Taupo Airport Authority, which take you from 5/7 through to 5/10. So again, it's our job just to receive these. So are there any questions or discussions from those minutes? Being none, I'll ask for a mover. Councillor Johnson, I'll second him as I was there. All those in favour? Item number 6 is advocates for the Tonga River funding request. Tina, do you wish to comment on this at all, or fill in the councillors a little bit further? We have had the one already presentation from the members themselves asking for funding to do an independent review of the trout fishery. I think we'd had that in Turangi. We did, didn't we, at the last meeting? So, Ms Jakes, I'll hand over to you.
So this is really the follow-up item, bringing that request formally to council, and from that workshop, the request was for some funding to do that work, and council have got a number of options in terms of how, or if they would like to proceed with that funding.
Now, just going on the front page and going by memory from that meeting, it was a 2-year study.
That's right.
It was going to cost $108,000. They have got all the other funding except for $36,000.
Yep.
So they want 18 out of us 1 year and 18 the next year, and then the study can go ahead, which is a totally independent study, not aligned in any way with DOC or anything else. It's an independent study of the Taupo fishery.
Yeah, I believe
or the state of the Taupo fishery.
DOC, we're contributing a third as well.
Okay, Councillor Downard.
Yeah, just after the presentation today on the delivery, I'd like to for information or to go back to DOC and just to see exactly, because I don't know whether it's council's role, it's more of the DOC role. I mean, I've just listened to a scientist today, and what's this other scientist going to do?
Well, he might prove that something else is happening that's causing the zooplankton not to become smelt, and that's why the trout are eating the zooplankton, because there's no smelt and they're hungry.
You have a million different scientists always come up with a different
Well, going back to the last meeting, I thought I got the feeling from the room that under the well-beings of the district, that the trout fishery was paramount, was totally important. We have had millions of dollars coming into this district via the fishery. We've dropped from 80,000 licences down to under 50,000 this year. Everybody's complaining about the state of the fishery, and I've heard comments about fishing game and dock and that sort of thing. And I got the feeling at the last meeting why this agenda items come here that we were supportive of having an independent review done, especially when only approximately a quarter of the cost is falling on the ratepayer.
Yeah, it's still
Council-
unbudgeted, sorry, Mayor,
Yeah.
Chairman, it's still unbudgeted $36,000 though.
18 per year, yes.
Just along echoing Mike's thoughts, I was certainly for it, but today was one thing, and then number 4 here, options, it says defer decision until outcome of the fishery review by Department of Conservation has been released. So do we have the date for that? Because that's kind of, I'm a bit like Mike, I'm kind of like, I'm for the fishery obviously, but there's other things on the table.
I can help. As I understand, they're looking at the end of March for that.
Because that might tie into more of the presentation today. So.
Councillor, I'm sorry, you didn't have your hand up. No, Councillor Heckling?
Do they require this, say, the 18,000 for June of this financial year, or can we do it through the annual plan process for next financial year and the year after? Because then it would be budgeted for.
As I understand it, they're actually looking to start in January this year. But this is entirely, this is your funding. This is entirely up to you, which is why we've put the options in the way that we have, in terms of whether or not you choose to fund it up front or put it through an annual plan process.
Councillor Henderson?
Just to clarify a few things, there was a couple of things I was unsure about this morning, so I rang Dave Lumley from DOC to clarify. They do support it, that's for sure. There was some discussion as to whether they did and in what way. The money that they said that they will put towards it is not in a budget or plan, but they have in principle supported that they will do that. And the third thing is relates to the options that were provided here for in the resolution. I see there's one that's been added which suggests that it could be delayed the decision until the fisheries review has gone through. So I asked Dave Lumley if that was what they would prefer or if that would fit in with what they were doing, and he said no, there was no sense in that or no need for that. So that would seem to me to render that option somewhat redundant, as he thought this stood alone in its importance from what they're doing currently. So just to give you an update on that.
Okay, Howard, please, through the chair, Councillor Williams.
That was the impression I got too from Dave Lumley when he presented to us in Turangi, and he spoke in full support of this research project, and it was also had a completely different framework than the work that DOC was carrying out with regards to their investigation into the fishery. Theirs is more based around theirs is not a science project like this one is, looking into the food chain. It's more around the economic benefit and actually the workings of the fishery and talking more with anglers, whereas this one here is a pure science project. And I agree that I think it's such our fishery is of such importance to our community that I think we could easily pay a third or 25% of the cost of this PhD project.
Okay, Councillor Downer?
So all these private talks you've had with DOC, Councillor Henderson, did they give a reason why there's no correlation between their study, which is, obviously the current state of the Taupo fishery, to what these scientists got? And we've just had a presentation from a scientist from DOC who talks about the food chain and everything, which is exactly what the advocates want to do on their 100,000 spending with Waikato University. How can there not be a correlation between the two? I mean, can't we wait until the DOC with the Taupo fishery state being undertaken by the Department of Conservation? There's got to be things that come out of that that's got to be, taken into account in a scientific way as well.
Yeah, okay, well, just keep it in order, thank you very much, but please just remember what we heard also down in Turangi. This is almost like peer review and a peer review. We've heard a lot of stories out of DOC in the 5 years I've been here, including mixing of waters. Now all I'm hearing about is something about the grass or the carpet, but we seem to be the only lake in New Zealand that's got this grass problem. So for me, I think this fishery is far too important not to have come in at two angles from my point of view, but however, Councillor Johnson.
Well, I think
Yeah.
in Turangi, they stated this was the one area that DOC hadn't been involved in and would like that gap filled. And I think I got the same from the scientist saying that the zooplankton was the one area he didn't have enough answers on. So this would finish off the circle and could help the fishery. So I'm in favour of.
So $18,000, I'm not prepared to turn my back on the fishery, but it was there and then it's you, is that okay? Right, Councillor Henderson.
Just to follow up on the private conversations I've had with Doc, that's simply for the purpose of clarifying facts that were clearly something we needed to know before we made decisions on it. So I think
Well, anybody's entitled to ring Dave Lumley, so
entirely
point
appropriate.
taken.
So the points I'm making though is that they do support it, that they're prepared to fund it in principle, but they haven't committed the money in any budget to the best of my knowledge, and that they see this as independent from the current review which they're doing. That's all.
So, Ms McLeod?
If I could just clarify where that last resolution came from, that I have spoken to Damien Coots about this prior to us putting this report together. He said that yes, they are supportive of the study. He also suggested that that last suggested resolution in terms of weighting. So that's where that has come from.
Well, you got your conflicting views from one to the other, both from DOC.
It seems so.
Councillor Heckling, through the chair, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Don't get me wrong, I support this. I'm just saying, do they really need the first 18,000 before June? That's this financial year, so that comes under unbudgeted. Or can we do it through the annual plan process so that they will still get the 36,000 over the following 2 years?
Well, and that's a fairly fair question. I'll just come to you shortly, Councillor Minster. It's a fairly fair question. My understanding, and I can't answer it quantitatively, but my understanding was they needed a commitment from us. That's why it came to this meeting from the last meeting, because that secured their other funding. Am I correct or incorrect? Because the council has asked a very good question. Can this go to the annual plan, or must it be done today?
Your Worship, it would still secure their funding. If we committed it in our annual plan, it would commit us to that.
Can you commit before you've gone out to public
You
submission?
can-
There's a resolution. There's a resolution
One
covering.
moment. Policy, Ms McLeod is very good on policy, as we all know.
You can agree in principle, but by going through your annual plan process, you are actually opening it up for comment.
Sure.
I guess one of the things that you're doing as part of that process is ensuring that there is support out there for council involvement in that particular activity.
Works two ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, just,
Councillor Minster.
they asked for 2013 beginning, but it does have in here sports fishery as part of the annual plan process. So there is a resolution that does cover that off,
That's the following year.
which is
Well,
part of that.
that's not what they want, though. The Tonga
I realise
River
it's
Advocate
request, but
wants you to make a
there's-
decision today. I don't know what will happen, as Councillor Hickling said, whether you defer to the annual plan and go out for public consultation, etc., or you just think to yourself, $18,000 for 2 years. If we don't do something about this fishery, and I'm not saying DOC aren't doing something about it, but if we don't make sure that this fishery is in the best health that we as governance for this district can have it, then I feel we are failing, because it's part of the staple diet of this lake. The backpackers, the motels, the hotels, the fish sport shops, the sell petrol, boat ramp fees, fishing fees. The fishery needs, in my opinion, work done. In fact, there's even a letter in tonight's paper, I think, to the editor, something about it. So it is of public interest. I'll go there and then there. Councillor Henderson?
It's really a question of, as I see it, is, for the public will be, is this sort of the business we should be involved in and so forth. So we've got three choices. We can choose to reject it, really. We can choose to fund it, and then if we choose to fund it, we decide how we fund it, which is either unbudgeted expenditure or through the annual plan. So given that there may be a degree of contention about whether it's considered core council business, putting it through the annual plan would clearly be a safer route, and it also might have an unintended consequence of raising the issue publicly and actually
Annual plan takes forward from 1 July next year though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the question I keep hearing here, and I'm not getting much of an answer. Do they need a commitment now, or do they need the money in this financial year, which would be unbudgeted, or do they need it in the next financial year, which could be annual plan? I'll come to you, I've got to. Can you answer that for me?
I can't answer that. Are you able to do
No,
that?
but in their presentation, they only said that they would wanted to look at starting the project from the beginning of the year in January.
Well, then they'd need the money now.
So would need to have, I presume, unless they could use some other funding up until
Well, I think,
Until
if
the
I remember
annual
rightly, they
plan.
said they had funding provided we were in the boat with them. Now, if they're starting in January, that means we can't do annual plan because that's July, isn't it? Councillor Downer, then
I'd
Councillor
like
Mitchell.
to move the suggested resolution, number 4.
So do we have a second for that?
When I finish reading it, I'll ask for it. Okay, you've all had a minute to absorb number 4. We have a mover. Is there a seconder to number 4? Is that a seconding or a question?
Am I allowed to speak in favour as well? Yeah, I'm a mover.
Well,
Seconder, sorry.
I've asked at this
Yep,
stage,
second.
it's for a seconder.
Yeah.
Are you seconding the motion?
Yes.
Right, we now have a seconder. Before I put the motion, does anybody want to speak against that motion?
I need to point out what I got this morning, and I'm concerned that it seems to conflict from what we've been told as a council from Doc and other channels. So in terms of what Doc's position is, it's difficult to know.
Well, this is agreeing in principle to fund the $18,000 per annum. Obviously, it's unbudgeted because this doesn't say taking it to the annual plan. This does the job. The fishery and the lake, I believe, is paramount. So I'm asking if anybody wants to speak against the motion.
Yes, Your Worship,
You're
I'd like to
against it?
speak against the motion with regards to resolution number 4. The group, the Turangi Advocacy Group, must have the funding in place before they can retain the services of the scientists to do the work. So without that guarantee from us, they will be unable to proceed at the beginning of January unless they find another funder for the 18,000. But what it could suggest is it does seem to be that we're getting two conflicting messages from two separate DOC officers, is that we defer until the December meeting to find out why it is that Damien Kuntz has put up the suggested resolution 4 when Dave Lumley told us quite emphatically at the Turangi meeting that he supported the council and that it was a standalone project or investigation right outside the framework of the work that Doc was doing.